what is economy? And if I ask you to define this in most simple way, what would be your answer?
So the economy is basically the whole of things which are getting bought. So all the food people buy, all the hairdresser services people buy, all the machinery businesses buy, and of course what people outside of the country buy, make up the whole economy. Gets bought and sold, makes up together the economy. So that's why you measure it like this in GDP.
And if I ask you, what is one of the most biggest misconception about economy? So what would be your answer?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that a government and a state needs to be run like a company. Because usually what a company does is try to lower the cost as much as possible. So only pay a little amount to the workers, buy the things they need to make their products or whatever they want to sell very cheap, and sell it for as much as they can. So the difference is very big, so they earn a lot of money. A government cannot do that because, first of all, the government is not really a company, it's not producing any goods which it sells for the most part. And of course, if the government tries to save money, the money is not going to the economy. So if a government saves, for instance, 10% of its money compared to the year before, then this 10% which they save will not go as income to someone else who would have gotten it before. So imagine the government saves in unemployment benefits. Then those people who don't have a job have less money to spend. And then, of course, they will go to the grocery store, they will go wherever they go to buy all the things they need for their life. But then they will spend 10% less. And all those companies who sell those things and who make those things, they will then in return also earn less money, which then creates less taxes for the government. So every time when the government cuts anything and doesn't want to pay for something anymore, it basically also lowers what it gets back in taxes. So that's why the government really doesn't work like a company.
Okay, this brings another question in my mind. Then where states should be spending the money the most and where they should be saving the money. But let's start with this, that where they should be spending the money the most.
Well, I think the government or the state should spend the money where it creates the most benefit. For instance, education, healthcare, roads, train rails, like all the things everyone needs, and especially also the companies need, so they can get their stuff from where they produce it to where it should be sold. And of course, for the people who work at those companies, because they need an education so they can do their jobs well. So yeah, I think money spent there is the best spent money for the government because they create the most benefit for the people and for the whole society. Well, if you think about that question where the government should save the money, first of all, you always need to consider, like we talked before, that if the government saves money, someone will have less income. So you should really think careful about what you don't want people to do. So for instance, if you are looking to make your country greener and have more green energy, then maybe the government should think about spending less money for dirty fuels or to subsidize companies to use those dirty fuels. Or maybe take away subsidies for gasoline or diesel or coal or whatever, so it gets more expensive and people use less of it. Another very important thing is, of course, tax credit for very rich people. So if you have multimillionaires and billionaires, which are getting vast tax credit, like in most Western countries, and the government wants that inequality gets smaller, then of course the government should take away those tax credits. So those people pay more taxes, and you can either use that money to lower the taxes on normal people, so they can keep more from what they earn, and in return also spend more and help the economy. Or you can use that money and invest in things which benefit most of people, like universal health care, very low cost or no cost education, roads, bridges, railway. yeah, wherever you think the money serves most of the people best.
I would like to clarify this thing as well, that when we talk about tax the rich and when you mention billionaires, it means that not like one of your rich uncles who has like two houses or three cars, right? It's one of those people who are like extremely rich.
The example, for instance, which I have in mind is people who are inheriting more than 20 million US dollars at once. So, yeah, especially in Germany, there are tax credits in the inheritance law for those very wealthy people, which lowers their tax burden very drastically, sometimes to zero,
Oh
even
my
though they
God.
don't need it. Yeah, and if you would take that money and invest it in schools or universities, streets, or whatever you can think of which benefits people, even like kindergartens, you know, like there's so many mothers, they're struggling, they have to earn money, they maybe don't have a partner who can support them, so they have to work and they don't know where to put their children, especially when they're small. So even if you would take that money and make it free for those mothers, that someone takes care of their children while they work, would be a good thing and would support the economy even more than if some rich people can just put it on the side and not use it because they want to save it and grow their wealth.